Hey folks, it's December 1st, and welcome.
We're going to be discussing Chapter 8.54 today.
So, for the summary for the chapter, guys. Pirate dislikes travel and decides we need to hear about it. Then Pisces is bored despite the fascinating magic spellbook, so he talks to the folks he's traveling with and hears about their dreams. Mares does not like Severe, but still gives a Siren her due through a special Yellat skill. Pisces will make undead for the raiders. Ascarush wants to fight Rochelle but Bellavere interrupts him because she's annoyed that he's not helping her complete the project that they had begun together. He's got something brewing, and Bellavere thinks he'll blow himself up, so she leaves the castle with Maviola in tow. Yvlon is settling into being a gladiator. She meets some of the Fox Beastkin and learns about Naravia and her new friends, dig up her insecurities and convince her to sing a little. Yvlon visits the palace after a bout and pisses off one of the princes. She gets into a duel with the former king of the arena, and they do a kind of WWE type match. And at the end, she's saved by Prince Zanul in a very dramatic fashion. The end of the chapter is Cognita and Barial commenting on the fight, I guess.
So I absolutely adored this chapter. I especially loved all of the little things, little tidbits that we got. So there were a lot of nods to different cultures and off-screen characters. So like the spoiled sweets for Yvlon, right, by Magnolia. The phrase "walk on the bones of tyrants" for a Stitch person, obviously kind of referencing the tyrant that Erin is currently buddy with in the afterlife. There's just lots of little pieces and moments that kind of help build characters out or nods to other characters that are off screen. And that was just throughout this chapter. And I love seeing that kind of stuff. So that's what really did it for me for this chapter. And I thought the point of view transitions were also actually pretty smooth.
I think the structure of the chapter was pretty simplistic. I could understand what they were stitching together, and it felt a little grab baggy, trying to get all the little things in the right place and convince us that everybody was at the same time period and that there are certain things happening. It's all just expectations of some big event that's supposed to come up. Ascarush is building a weapon. The Syria is scaring everybody with her circlet. Pisces is summoning undead. There's stuff a brewing, and it's all at the same time. That I didn't really see the chapter the same way you did. It wasn't particularly enjoyable for me, but it wasn't like bad. It just didn't feel like there was any depth to it. It felt like a very functional transition between points. Point A and point B. That's all.
Okay, so for the reactions to Asteria's original impression, you had 3 people who thought that was amusing, 2 upvotes, three upvotes. To Oshi's response to that, we've got several disagreements.
Would any of you who disagree like to speak up?
I think that this sort of check-in chapter was needed, particularly for Yvlon, because we hadn't seen her character development, her transition to dealing with a lot, or her transition from kind of being captured to dealing with her circumstances. We need this transition for whatever's building. If we had launched straight into some of the stuff I think you were referencing that's coming up, it would have felt more awkward. But I think you're right, this is a touch-based chapter, but I think it's one that we do need.
Toast, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, the whole point of the serial is that it's the journey. That the chapter isn't just some pointless bridge, it's the journey, and that's the best part of the whole fucking thing, man. Excuse me, you might have to bleep that. Anyway, I'm just saying, like, it's better. It's good.
So Alabaster wrote, I both agree and disagree with Oshi. I see what he means about how it seems like a grab bag. To me, it felt like Pirate is really going pedal to the metal to get the volume finished, and sometimes that sacrifices deep scenes for plot. That said, I really liked the chapter and how, despite it being a heavy plot chapter, it still managed to explore some of the culture of the gladiators.
Javon also had a reaction to your comment from earlier. The Alabaster one that was just read out, you've got 3 people who agree with that statement.
I was to say, like,
4.
this is a bit of like a transitionary chapter that's like going from like plot, like as plot lines are developing. But I didn't really see, like, to me, this is the chapter where we get to see Yvlon be a proper gladiator. Like, up until now, she's been just going murder rampage mode, and which isn't exactly how gladiators are supposed to be. And I think chapters in the future now, the gladiator part of Yvlon being a gladiator isn't going to be as important because now she's going to have to deal with all the Naravia politics and maybe talking with the queen rather than like more showmanship and stuff.
Okay. We have a person who agrees with you. To continue with that particular discussion, or at least to clarify my point, when I say that the chapter felt light, I didn't say that I don't think that it necessarily needed an in-depth conversation or some kind of revelatory thing. It's just that the chapter itself is functional, perfunctory, a touch-based chapter to reset us. It did not connect with me, and that's where the opinion stops. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next thing unless someone has something. Do you think Pisces is going to be freed from the slave class? Do you think the one responsible for that will be Nicia, the Siren of Severe, or perhaps himself, or some other method? We have a couple of people typing up a storm, so I'm going to give them a bit and fill in some airspace with saying, I don't think he will ever lose his slave class.
Yeah, Toast disagrees. He says it's a red class. I don't think it's even permanent until you accept it and it goes white. I don't think that's you still have it. It's permanent. You have it.
Yeah, but it's not like, so it's permanent, right? But it's permanent in the way that like someone has put like a friggin' chain on you or something. It's permanent, but it can come off. Whereas like the other class, you might need a monarch or something. Whereas I think as long as it's red, there's some sort of action or some sort of behavior, pattern of behaviors or condition, and that eventually it will go away.
All right, Toast. Here's my rebuttal to that. Red skills exist, and it's been stated more than once that slave classes cannot just be removed without the interference of a ruler type. Let me finish. Because the idea behind the classes and the colors are supposed to be a reflection of your emotional and mental and spiritual sense when it comes to how the system marks you. If you receive a class or a skill, it's supposed to be that reflection. The reason it's red for Pisces is because he refuses the class. He does not accept it. It is not something he chose or accepted or understood as part of himself. It is a mark on his soul, and it's explicitly made to mark his soul by the people who put it there. That kind of injury doesn't go away. It stays until you die. Like, it's a permanent mark on his soul, just like a scar on the body. Go ahead.
But we already know that full-on red classes can lose skills and lose levels from changes in behavior. Yeah, we do.
No.
A skill that was there straight up went away. That was a thing.
Lynette, you had some... Yeah, go ahead.
We've never seen anybody lose a red skill who had one. No.
I'm pretty sure Flower Girl lost the endless hunger skill.
He's right. She lost her red status and became human again after transitioning to a monster initially.
Okay. There's a couple of comments.
But that's not a skill.
Well, there's a couple. Hang on, Lynette.
She had red skills and she had a red status.
I'll let you guys think about it a little bit more. Jinjin says maybe Fetohep. He's looking for Sira. He might gather the rest of the horns while he's at it. Jivan says, given how many royals are friends or friends with friends of the horns, I don't see how Pisces will keep the class. Asteria responded, Lacan can break it.
Lacan, yeah.
Yeah, Lacan can break it. Leonette can potentially break it from Jivan. Discanter says some theories about this, mostly that we just don't know enough about.
There's a lot of plausible theories that people have said, and with some things to back them up, but I don't think that we actually know whether red classes, whether a red slave can get removed, or whether it needs a monarch. I think that speculation about it is fun, but I would be really cautious about saying this is the way that it certainly is.
I agree with that.
That's what I'm.
Kermit, you had something to say about the flower seller of East Helm's lost red skills.
Yeah, sorry there. I had to unmute for a second. There was a discussion going on in reactions and comments where multiple people brought that up, but then somebody else, I think Mr. Europe, just posted a follow-on, with the actual text. And it looks like they had, only conditions, or at least in two cases. Terrible hunger and outcast humanity were conditions, but body of the eater and rending claws were both aspects. So the conditions, I think, were removed, but I don't think she ever lost the aspects.
None of which are labeled as skills, however.
Mm-hmm.
She only got one red skill, which was Gaping Bite, which she never lost. But she died, so we don't know.
Okay, Yvlon has a clarification on Flower Girl.
Oh yeah, just like mentioning that the Flower Girl, like her red skills and such in relation to Pisces. Although the thing is, Flower Girl got, you can see in the screenshot, rank 1 horror, so like which is the only time we've ever seen ranks be a thing, and presumably they work substantially different from any red classes or anything, because they appear to have like some sort of different system going on.
That is true.
While the discussion about whether or not it's possible to lose it on your own is interesting, it would be very difficult for them to get out of Chandra without meeting one of the rulers that one of them is kind of friendly with. He's probably going to meet Nasia or Fetohep or someone who's relatively well disposed to them, and it's probably not going to be hard to get rid of the class that way. So all of this is kind of academical because it's kind of super easy for him to lose his slave class in another way.
The assumption is that will happen by everybody. My assumption is that's bullshit. If it was that easy, it would happen all the time. If it was that simple, it would happen a lot more than it does. If it was that easy, the Rochelle would not be as powerful as it is, because all they would have to do to remove a slave from the power of Rochelle is free such slave, remove the class with a ruler. Suddenly you have a named adventurer with a vendetta against Rochelle, and you have a supply of them. That's not how the class works. You're marking someone's soul. And to reiterate what I originally said, the horror ranks are a specific permutation of gaining levels. They are specifically an evolution of how afflictions work. Because when you gain a rank in horror, you don't gain so much as a class, so much as you're afflicted with something. You gain conditions, and as a horror, you gain aspects that reflect that horrorness. The actual slave class that was afflicted onto Pisces doesn't go away. It's not that simple. It's not that easy. When Ghazi's removal was described by her in the chapter where she talked about being a former slave, it was a bestowal from a ruler class that allowed her to take up a particular type of class for him. In order to get to that point, it takes more than just, ruler says you're not a slave anymore, thus you're not a slave anymore. It's not that simple. Kel says most rulers in Chandra use slaves. They don't want to, nor would they bother to free the vast majority of slaves. Lynette, you had something to say?
Yep. I typed that I agree with you, and I typed that first, we don't know how difficult the removal might be. Also, if rulers did it very often, Rochelle would suddenly be pushing for democracy and getting rulers assassinated, because you get rid of the people who were able to remove the class, and then suddenly you can't remove the class.
About 5 people also agreed with Kel, 5 people disagreed with Lynette.
Toast says, powerful doesn't mean the Illuminati. Also, why would rulers do it often? They're the ones that keep slavery legal. My response to that would be, they would do it often because if it's a ruler thing, they level from it.
Just to that effect, that maybe when the rulers do break that slavery class, maybe they give something, they pay something. There's some aspect of it that they can break it, but there's a cost, and we just haven't seen it yet. And that's why they don't do it more often.
What was your favorite tidbit of this chapter?
Scorpions down the pants. That was hilarious. I laughed so hard. Okay, that was me.
That's it. Anyone else?
All the gladiators finding out that Yvlon is a super nerd.
Okay. Sure. Personally, I like Mare talking in the third person.
Why?
I don't know. It just gave me a chuckle. Courier
Okay.
says, I enjoy keeping track of the infected pieces of metal that got discarded by Yvlon. I think we got a silver spoon and 2 swords this chapter. Asteria?
Oh, I just thought it was cute that we saw Ivory and his class rock again. And now Pisces at this point is probably too scared to make those like upper class skeletons because they keep turning out quite strange.
We had 9 people wheeze at Courier's nice little interjection. Okay. I think that's it for this one, so we're going to move on.
Kit liked Necrolad. Javon liked Saria stuffing food into her mouth.
Oh, sorry, I missed some people, I guess.
Yep, you're good.
How will Yellat skills factor into future events? What did you think of them as shown here? Have we seen them before? Ditto to above, but on rumor-based skills. I don't think there's a difference between the two. I think they're all reflections of like popularity or fame.
There's a good line for this. 1 second.
For those who are listening in, the chapter discusses Yellat-based skills as being the equivalent of orange class skills. Orange class skills equate to the landmark and fame skills that we've seen before. They are connected to how well known someone is or something is, and they seem to allow for certain levels of functionality. In this case, the description was Mare giving tribute to the Siren of Severe because she has a skill that claims all bandits as being her subjects.
I had a thought when it came to Pisces, because it was discussed during the chapter that the book was showing him ways that of casting magic that were in fact superior to how anyone in the current age casts magic. It gives an actual explanation for how magic is done and provides the ability to cast it in a superior method and customize it. So there's a very good chance by the end of this journey, Pisces might be coming up on Alice Karash in levels of power.
Unlikely.
For the versatility of his spellcraft, because of the old method and the customability of all of his spells that he'll be learning from this book. I know he's not going to jump to level 70 in a few weeks, but if he keeps the book for any continual amount of time, a couple years, he could catch up. At least get closer than most anyone else.
A single spellbook isn't enough to close the gap. It'll teach him to think of magic differently and approach the way he does things differently and push himself, certainly, which will help him level and become a better mage. That does not equate to instant archmage or even within a few years. It's just not how the system works and not how Pirate Abba works, and certainly not how the world is set up. That's my rebuttal to that. Anybody else?
I would say that we're ignoring the fact that as Crash is 200 years old, and he may, have been actually studying for a lot of that time, and Pisces is like not even 30. So I think there's just a fundamental gap of experience there, and I ignoring levels. I don't think any book for any length of time that's reasonable in the serial will bridge that.
Apparently I went too fast with the Yellat skill stuff. We had a couple of comments from typers. So DM Craft, our wondrous rat, I took a bit about Mare talking in third person actually related to the Yellat skills, as in talking about it in first person might have done something. So I'm guessing he's referring to the idea of someone being spoken of, allowing that someone to literally know that they're being spoken of and what someone's saying. I don't know if anybody is aware of the idea of the he who must not be named rule, where if you name someone, they'll hear what you have to say about them and what they're saying and where that's coming from. I think that's about it. Alabaster says, this is from a minute ago. I'm pretty sure Erin's do something like increase the inn's ability to be famous. Like they amplify how far word spreads and help it stick in people's heads. Okay. And Kel, in response to the magic question, says, I don't think that's what Phoenix means. More that Pisces is learning how to use magic more like how Terry did in their first encounter. It'll give him a leg up on future leveling IMO simply due to creative use of game mechanics. I don't disagree. I just don't think that it equates to any kind of large amount of level up or significant increase. It just increases his bandwidth. He's still at the bottom of the tier as far as magical learning goes. It's going to take a lot for him to grow into that kind of particular type of spellcasting. Courier says, Erin's landmark skill means, like, basically everyone hears about her and that's about it. Siren's is heavily based off her having tentative control of the city of I'm guessing he means the capital.
Let me read it.
Okay.
Let me read it. Erin's landmark skill, this is from Courier. Erin's landmark skill means like basically everyone hears about her and that's it. Siren's is heavily based off of her having tentative control of the city and seems to do some tertiary meta effects, helping people shuffle around and be dragged along by the skills they've already gotten in the bandit lifestyle. In relation to Asteria asking why Lup or Joseph doesn't have an orange skill, Joseph's would have to be, well, he doesn't really have a way to apply feign yet aside from talent scouting, which is a different skill. Similar problem with Lup. Javon responds with that, says, we did not see what Joseph's skills ended up actually being after the system imploded.
Imploded? I don't remember the implosion.
It yelled, and we'd never heard it yell before. Mm-hmm.
Did it yell?
It yelled. The voice got louder and more excited because it was trying to find his new class. Yes, it imploded.
Oh wow. Okay, well that's a whole nother thing. I guess that covers everything, and I apologize for my strange stuttering. I'm just not at 100% today. Okay, we've got a couple more questions. Here's one. What do you think of Yvlon's development? Is time as a gladiator finally helping to heal the loss of her first team and feeling as a shadow of her siblings? No. Anyone else?
Oh, I actually... okay, I like how we actually get to see specifically or hear specifically from her own mouth this time how she feels about her brother and sister, because up until this point, she's sort of avoided all of that. Her team's probably gotten more out of her since then, but it wasn't happening on screen, so we missed it. And she's just sort of loosening up and blurting all of this out in front of people that she doesn't really know all that well, but she doesn't think they're going to meet her brother and her sister, so she doesn't think it matters so much. Javon says it is guiding her on the path of how to deal with her feelings on her siblings. I think she's starting to understand a little bit more about family because of that. I'd agree with that. A couple of people agree with that. Cosmic Chaos says, I think it's sort of poetically ironic that she's making her own path and stepping out of Law's shadow by emulating him in a very literal sense for entertainment value in the arena. Yeah, poor thing can't get away from him, can she? I wonder how she feels about that. Asteria has a Yvlon comment.
Just to sort of echo off what people are saying, I really enjoyed the whole night gambit that we got to see and how it was introduced and then brought up like a couple times in the chapter. It ended up being key to her whole fight, right, with Breton. And so it was a nice little tidbit that ended up kind of becoming a key part of her surviving that encounter. And I think Yvlon, like she's at a point where she's starting to handle a lot of the trauma that she was going through. Like it seems like up until this point, it's all been about everybody must survive, everybody must live. And she's been avoiding handling what happened to her, what happened to her original team. And now she's finally being forced by other people to kind of confront aspects of herself that maybe she didn't even realize were a thing. And I think we're seeing that actually with a lot of the horns, right? Which is, it's kind of cool. It's kind of interesting. And I like the theme that we're seeing throughout each of their character arcs.
Kel says, that was my favorite part, really. Just her opening up and talking about her feelings about her family and coming to the realization that she has no hobbies whatsoever.
Poor thing.
I'm not so sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure she did have hobbies and she had a life. And, all having her entire friend group wiped out and nearly dying to a horde of undead and then being comatose and unable, and then what's the word for what she was? God damn it, I can't. Vocabulary escapes me. But just
PTSD?
What?
Berserker's
PTSD.
Rage?
No, where she would just was incommunicate.
She's catatonic.
Catatonic, thank you. Oof. Being catatonic for like weeks on end. It most likely it changed her significantly. Courier says, Yvlon, I think Gladiator is an incredibly lucky class to help Yvlon learn a certain way of coping. I'm unsure how much it could relate with the trauma from loss, but the show aspect of Gladiator culture is a serendipitous way for Yvlon to start getting a handle on her seemingly deep-seated anger issues that led to her red skill. I don't know how that works. Could you give us a little bit more? Could you expand on that, Courier?
To make a show out of a fight and make it convincing takes a lot of focus, and not just focus on what you're fighting immediately to survive, to kill, to end the fight, but also what everyone is doing and trying to set up everyone into a place that everyone that's watching will absolutely enjoy, even if it's not the most natural progression for a fight. It's a way to detach her from being in the moment and fighting. Separate her from her fight or flight instinct. Something like that.
Okay. Lynette says, I am going to want to see her actually act like a lady. Something about the politics and the intrigue and dealing with how the aspects of the world works versus how she's actually living right now among the common folk. Yeah, there were moments where the sequence that Yvlon was just leaving the gladiatorial arena, and they passed by the hemp soldiers and just how she reacted, and I forget exactly who she was talking to. Oh boy.
Texica.
Yeah.
I don't, that's not the, she's been living among the common folk for over a year now. And I don't think we've ever actually, other than her reactions to the Champion of Rust several chapters back and how she responded to his overtures of friendship because she knew that he was angling for something, because that's the way that her world works. She was leaning in the palace during this chapter, and she's like, no, we're not going to go see the queen. It's too soon. And everybody's looking at her like, what do you mean too soon? Yvlon has a better feel for how the court works than anyone else does. And we've never seen her do that before. I want to see that. That would be awesome. And it would be like us getting blindsided by the throne bearers of Callanfer as to how competent they are.
Okay. That sounds like an interesting variation of Yvlon. More music. What did you think of Yvlon's song, House Fire's anthem of our Dullahan vocal warm-up? I mean, it was a song. Pirate. I'll be honest, this is gonna get me crucified, but I don't really read the lyrics of written songs unless I hear someone sing it. I don't.
Jen says big cringe for Yvlon. I agree. And I think she did it on purpose. I don't think she wanted to stand up there in front of everybody. So she just sang whatever she needed to in order to be able to sit back down again. But that's me.
It was just a really cringy scene, and the music is another attempt by Pirate to make something meaningful in the odd, and it had the oddest of position. Like, why create something poetic in the middle of a cringe scene? Very much Pirate ABBA, by the way. Ridiculously, like, inappropriate levels of cringe while also having some kind of hidden in-depth meaning behind it. I'm pretty sure the song has some meaning behind it that we can't quite see, or maybe I just don't see. Will Santa Relc return?
On Christmas Day.
I hope so. Does anyone think Santa Relc is going to come back and that we're going to get a Relc chapter for Christmas?
I mean, the 25th is a Saturday.
It would be the perfect time for Relc to come back and for us to catch up on list score, and Relc could teach Christmas to all the people he's bringing to, list score. It could be a whole Moses bringing the Israelites to the promised land moment.
Mr. Europe?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with that, of course, is that it's still like the beginning of fall in World. And while we could get a Relc chapter where he gets the gnolls situated and happy, and he acts like a Santa-like figure, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to have him actual teach the meaning of Christmas during October.
Okay, hang on a second. Passover has nothing to do with Christmas. So when I said Moses, that's what I was talking about.
Never had Christmas in July?
Also, you use the word Santa, dude. You sealed your own fate right there.
The question
is about Relc Santa.
I use the example of Moses bringing the Israelites to the promised land. I'm just saying, we could have had a parting of the Red Sea. He could have had a staff.
Parting of the red blood fields.
Yeah, something like that. It would have been a great, he crosses 7, I don't know. Maybe there was a golden statue that he breaks because we're not supposed to worship the damn thing. I don't know.
Sounds like a fun fever dream.
There's lots of metaphorical things that Pirate can draw from. And I mean, it's Judeo-Christian theology. It's probably ingrained in Pirate's brain anyway.
I've been working on a theory with the Moses is actually the horns in Chandra, so that's overlap. Can't steal from other themes.
So
wandering
donut steal.
Slaves, locusts.
Hey, that's how we get Kissenver back home. We've got a part to see first.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening in to this recording of our post-chapter discussion. We'll see you next time.
This is just Asteria here, following up on a lot of the discussion that took place after the recording stopped. We actually covered quite a few more topics that just wanted to clue you guys in on. We discussed the big reveal of Az's taking out of Karash according to the request of his friend. We sort of had multiple fanboying, girling moments over the Bard and the Cognita showing up. The interaction of the two princes. People are really excited to see what Xenol's going to do. Maybe that's a new ship that's going to take off with Yvlon. Fingers crossed there. We also talked about whether or not the prince that was trying to get her to, take back her accusation of corruption, whether or not he was just an idiot or if he was actually involved in the corruption and trying to, head off an investigation. We'll see their excitement, a lot of excitement there. We had quite a few theories about what Az and Bella were working on. Could be trying to level up some sort of brood mother type undead Leviathan that can create leveling undead. We got some pretty wild theories going on there. But we're just trying to figure out what it was that Bella was helping out Az with. It kind of drew him away from trying to help out Pisces. We also had a lot of theories about Breton and Plague Seal, kind of what's going to happen to him with Yvlon kind of releasing the bugs munching on all the metal. And, whether or not it might be kind of almost like a Moses-esque reference with the plagues and whatnot, and if it's, getting started in all the areas that she's popped up. So lots of great after recording discussion. So if you guys ever want to like pop in after the recording's over, please do. Discussion generally does keep going on for at least an hour, if not a couple hours in this case, afterward. Anyway, hope to see you guys next time.